Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Tan in this channel. In today's video, I'm gonna talk about string setups. You know, in modern tennis there are two types of string setups that are most popular in recreational level and on the pro tournament as well, which are a full bed poly setup and a hybrid setup. So for those who don't know, the hybrid is when you string the racket with different strings on the main and on the cross. This could be anything. You could put a natural cut in the main and polyester in the cross, or vice versa, or you could even put a poly in the main and another poly in the cross as well. There are thousands of combinations that you could try. Actually, I used to play with a hybrid setup, but now I only play with full bed poly setup. Basically because the multi-filament string breaks pretty fast and it costs a bit more than the poly string. I didn't want to pay like $20, $30 every 1 or 2 weeks just for the string. Well, it has been a while since the last time I used the hybrid setup, and now I really forgot how it feels. So in this video, I will do a playtest comparison between a racket with full bed polyester string and a hybrid, and point out the differences between each one of them. And the rackets I'm gonna use in the video today is the Blade 98 16x19. Both of them has identical spec, same weight, same swing weight, same balance. So you could be sure that the differences I'm gonna feel in this playtest will come from the strings, not the rackets. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more tennis content. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. I will put the link in the description below. Thank you. Now, let's start with the full bed polyester string setup. Well, it's just another day of playing tennis for me because this is my go-to string on my main racket. Overall, this setup works pretty well for my game. It's firm but not harsh or discomfort. The string has average power compared to poly string, but it's way under power compared to multi-filament string. It's more of a control-oriented string. It limits my power and prevents me from overheating. It doesn't give extra power at all, so you get exactly what you put in. The string has pretty good bite on the ball, and it increases the launch angle on the blade a little bit, so I can hit with higher percentage shots. So the upside is the control over the ball, especially on depth control, as well as the higher spin potential. The downside though is the forgiveness and the pops. I feel like it's a lot more difficult to hit with this setup than the hybrid setup. The sweet spot is smaller, and it requires more accuracy and power to get that pops. When I miss hit, it feels like a bit shanking, and I did it way too many times more than I do on the hybrid setup. Also, the pops on the poly doesn't feel as pops as on the hybrid as well. I don't know how to explain this, but you understand me if you try it. Now onto the hybrid setup. Well, I expect it to feel and play differently from the poly string setup because I put the multi-filament on the main and poly on the cross, so hypothetically it should play closer to the multi-filament than the poly. First impression, I was like, oh my god, what is this? It's really satisfying hitting with the setup. It reminds me of the feeling when I was playing in junior. It's a lot more powerful and comfortable. Basically, it's easier to play with, more forgiving, with larger sweet spot, pops on like almost every shot I hit. But it changes my game as well, because the way the ball launches from the string bed is somewhat different from the poly string. So I will get into that later. Okay, I'm gonna do the routine and start off with the feel. Well, it's like heaven. I miss this feeling. It's the definition of plush and soft that I forgot. You know, there are poly strings in the market that has plush and soft feel as well, but they normally come with a muted feel. But on this one, it's like you can feel the explosiveness that's not muted, but it's softer than any poly strings for sure. So yeah, the comfort is top notch. On the power, well, this setup is really powerful and launchy, and this is one of the things that I need to adjust myself to it. You can see that the pace on the rally is a lot faster than when I was using the poly string. The ball goes more in a straight line trajectory rather than with some arc projectile trajectory on the poly setup. I try to put more topspin on it, but it doesn't seem to bite the ball as much. Yes, it can spin just fine when rally with slower pace that you can like focusing on rushing the ball, but on faster pace it's like there's a lot more drive than the bite on the ball because of the string has some trampoline effect. So I ended up hitting flatter than usual. I need to remind myself repeatedly to control the launch angle not to go too high and to hit with like probably 70% of my normal power and shorten the take back. Otherwise it's gonna sail out for sure. This is probably the most difficult thing for me to do because when I was playing with poly, most of the time this thing is not really in my head at all. I can go as high as I want and hit as hard as I want, then compensate it with the topspin to keep the ball in. Another thing I like on this setup is the serve. It really increases the speed of my first service by probably like 20%, and it's really easy to pop on the first service as well. And on the second serve, I also get more speed, good placement, and I think the spin on the second serve is just fine, better than the ground strokes. The return also pretty good, probably because I normally hit more flat on the return with short backswing. So I can put the ball deeper. At the net, again, rock solid. I can get more depth on the ball and it just feels great getting all the pops. It also saves time for me as well because I really don't have to move my racket that much. I can just like set the racket face and block it back. Okay, it seems like there's so many positive things already, but you know nothing is perfect, so now let's talk about the negative. First, as I said, it's way more powerful and it lacks topspin on fast rallies, so it kind of changes the way I play the game. Now I have to control the power myself and adjust it regularly on every shot I make, instead of letting the string do the job. Second, the hybrid setup usually costs more than the poly setup and the durability is low. I have hit with NXT hybrid before and it breaks in like 5 hours. Let's see how long this one can last. Third, the consistency of your shots will reduce over time. This is because the string doesn't snap back into places 100% as the poly setup. In summary, yeah, I really like this hybrid setup. It's powerful, feel great, comfortable, forgiving. I think I will play with this more and more on like lazy Sunday. Anyway, there are some downside as I mentioned before. Next time I will probably try the poly in the main and multi-filament in the cross to see if it gives me an extra pops while maintaining a good spin potential. So who should use this kind of hybrid setup? Well, obviously, players with sensitive arms, beginners for sure can play better with this hybrid setup. Advanced player who want comfort and has a lot of control themselves. I think this setup can work well with all type of game, all court, baseline, serve and volley, counter puncher, everything. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.